Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. So as you could probably tell by the title, it's a folklore video today. So today I am going to be discussing about Dear Woman, or also goes by Dear Lady. Now this one's an interesting one because when I was looking up about it, it's a Native American legend and mythology of Oklahoma. So we're looking at that part of the world today. And also there's been depictions of the Dear Woman in media, so that'll be movies, TV shows, books. So that'll be quite interesting. So I thought, let's dive in. So the Dear Woman is a familiar figure in many Native American legends and mythology of Oklahoma, Western United States and the Pacific Northwest. Notable tribes are the Creek, Lakota, Omaha, Ponca, and I'm not even going to try and say that one just in case I completely butcher it and offend anyone, so I do apologise about that. But yeah, so basically we're looking at those sort of tribes from that sort of area. It's just that I don't offend anyone basically. So Dear Woman is a shape-shifting spirit who often takes the form of a young woman, except that her feet are hooved like those of a deer and her brown deer eyes. Sometimes Dear Woman is described as having the upper half of a human woman and the lower half of a deer. As a shapeshifter, Dear Woman can also appear as an old woman or as a complete deer. In the legends shrouding a Dear Woman, she is often just off the trail or behind a bush, calling men over to her, particularly unfaithful or promiscuous men. So she's got a type. So that's quite interesting that she, well, one goes for men and two goes for unfaithful, the cheaters. I mean, women cheat as well, but Dear Woman has only got beef with male cheaters. So that's quite interesting. Let's carry on. It is frequently too late when men are enchanted and drawn to her that they notice she isn't all that she seems and find themselves trampled to death beneath her hooves. A more luckier man might find himself pining away, longing for a lost love. In the more malign interpretations of Dear Woman, she is often presented as a bogeyman, seducing men before she kills them. I mean, fair play. I mean, why not? Fight the power and all that, women with power. More violent versions of Dear Woman's story say that she was a human woman transformed into a deer after being raped, or she was brought back to life by the original Dear Woman spirit after being murdered. Further stories say it is still the original Dear Woman, she has just changed her course and is even more vengeful. Now that'll be a cool sort of one. I personally lean more towards that one. Trust me to lean towards a more violent version, but I like when there's a bit more of a story as to why, like especially these sort of ones where I think the background as to something happening in the life before the past that's triggered them to target certain individuals or get revenge on certain people. I think it gives a bit more context. And for me, I am very much so about the backstory. And even when I'm watching shows, when I'm playing my games, if there's a solid backstory, I'm hooked. So yeah, that does kind of sound fair enough. I mean, like, you know, if she was unfortunately raped, it kind of makes sense why she goes for the unfaithful, promiscuous sort of men. It kind of ties into it. And you know, Bella being brought back to life by the original Dear Woman spirit after being murdered, it could be. I personally feel like it's probably more the original one, just because, like, you know, she seems quite badass, to be fair. And I don't believe anyone would be able to murder Dear Woman just by the sounds of it. But anyway, just a random little tangent there for you. So she's sometimes seen as a form of succubus or vampire, draining her victims of their blood. Start again. Sorry about that, guys. So she drains them of their life force. The Dear Woman legends certainly do seem to hold a certain familiarity to the Irish stories of the Fae, who have sex with a mortal man, and who is then never satisfied with a human lover. Now that's quite interesting. I mean, like, you know, as a fellow vampire myself, I mean, I could see it if she, because, like, you know, us vampires do like to drain mortals' life force, and that delicious crimson blood. But yeah, and it's quite interesting how to compare, like, it's similar to the Irish story of the Fae, which I will be covering on this channel, because I do like, even though, you know, I'm being you old vampire, I do like stories about fairies and stuff. It is quite interesting to see different depictions. So it says in the Lakota versions of Dear Woman, she doesn't kill men. Instead, she takes their soul so that he will be lost for the rest of his life. As to the women, Dear Woman spirits them away so that they are never seen again. In these stories, Dear Woman is described as a black-tailed deer. So that's quite interesting. So in this one, she targets men and women. I mean, she's not as violent towards the women. You know, she doesn't full on doesn't murder her. Well, in this one with men, she just makes them lost for the rest of his life. You know, and the women are never seen for the rest of their life. So I guess it's a bit more even. But that's quite an interesting one. Other stories surrounding Dear Woman describe seeing her as a sign or warning or a time of personal transformation. She is very fond of dancing and has been known to join in on communal dances, leaving when the drumming stops. More benign interpretations of Dear Woman's myth connect her to fertility and love who help women during childbirth, and that's quite cool. It's cool how she goes from one extreme of full-on killing guys that cheat on the partners, and then the other extreme, she's helping women during childbirth. I've never personally gone through childbirth, but yeah, me myself, talking to people that have, it is a difficult thing, and props to anyone that has, you know, gone through childbirth. Like, power to you, because I have heard a multitude of stories, and it does not sound like something that I'd be able to go through. I mean, obviously, if the occasion did come up, I would, obviously, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't sound like one small feat. Definitely not. So now I've got the Dear Woman appearing in shows and similar folklores. So the first show that the Dear Woman comes up in is a show called Reservation Dogs. So in this TV series featuring life on the reservation for several young Native Americans, Dear Woman is mentioned in passing by Officer Big. The 5th episode features Dear Woman as Officer Big tells his origin and backstory of why he chose to become an officer. And then we got Banishing Dear Woman. According to traditions, Dear Woman can be banished by the use of tobacco smoke, prayers and chanting. Dear Woman's spell or enchantment can also be broken by looking at her feet. Once Dear Woman realises she's been found out, she runs away. Quite an interesting one, because I've never heard of banishing like a demon spirit with tobacco smoke. I have heard of prayers and chanting before, but like normally it's like incense, like that sort of stuff, unless it's more so with being in UK and stuff, and you know, the different religions that I'm aware of. So that's quite interesting that the same tobacco smoke. So let's look at some similar ones. So there's a Scottish one that is a female vampire said to have goat legs. So she seduces travellers and drinks their blood. Fair play to her. So yeah, like Dear Woman, who is also strictly a vampire but has goat legs instead of deer legs, so that's quite a cool one. We've got a goblin from Chile who is a seductress who drives her victims insane. I mean, that'd be quite a cool power to have, not gonna lie. It would be quite cool, like, you know, to drive people insane just for lols. Then we've got Lara, who is from Brazil, and she is a siren-like entity who leads men to their death. Descriptions place her as being a fish woman with a blowhole in her neck. I'm just trying to imagine that. I'm just trying to picture that. That's quite an interest. I mean, like, I do find Simon's mermaids interesting, and yes, before anyone jumps down my fault, I know that Simon's mermaids are different. Simon's are the ones that do lure fishermen to the death, and they're normally the ones that you see on the rocks and are singing the lovely melody that puts the boatman under a spell, basically, or trance, if you want to say. But this is quite interesting that she's got a blowhole in her neck. That's a new one. Next up, we've got the La Llorona. Now, I have done a separate video about La Llorona, so I'll leave a link to that in the description. A cheeky little plug for you there. But basically, she's from Mexico and the southwestern United States, and the descriptions often cite her as having no feet. Now, I didn't mention that in my video about La Llorona, so that's quite an interesting thing that she's depicted with having no feet, because that didn't come up when I did search about that last time. So next one is we're in Colombia, and there's a siren-like entity leading men to their deaths. Descriptions often cite her as having deformed feet. So we've got another siren here, but this time deformed feet, so not like a fishtail. So that's quite a cool one. Next up, we've got an Indian one. So India, serpent woman. In some areas of northern India, there are stories of people who are surprised to discover that a woman travelling with them has cow hooves instead of human feet. A slight variation to this is a woman's feet being on backwards. These were clearly signs that the woman travelling with them isn't human. I mean, yeah, if you look down and someone's feet are backwards or full on cow hooves, I think that would be a big giveaway that they might not be 100% human. But that's quite a cool one. Then we've got the Simons in general, so in Greek and Rome. Aquatic females infamous for luring men to leap from their ships to watery death by the hypnotic songs. So yes, I had the correct description, so I'm quite happy about that. Then we've got the Tunda, which is in Colombia again, and it's a siren-like entity leading men to their deaths. Descriptions often cite her as having deformed feet. Why do these and having deformed feet? I've only just noticed that. But there we go, common theme. And then the last one is from the Austrias and Spain, and it says a siren-like entity who leads men to their death. So this one doesn't mention their face, so I'm guessing I got maybe a bit more normal feet, depending what you classify as normal. But yeah, but that is the story of Dear Woman. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, or over on Instagram, or over on X, or in my email, which is in my YouTube description. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to share, to like, subscribe. It really helps me out, and it just lets me know what sort of videos you guys are liking. I'll leave a link to my La Llorona video. I'll also put a link to my playlist, that is all the folklore talks, and I'll put a couple of folklore talks in there if you don't want to go through the whole playlist. There's some like recent ones. Yeah, I'll do the most recent ones that I've done, and I'll see you all in the next one.